there, and welcome to the Inclusioneer Lab, where we talk about the fusion of design, guest experience, and innovation, and how that's impacting the hospitality industry. Today, I am very lucky to have a good friend, but also a former Green Beret turned hotel executive and leadership coach, and best-selling author, all-around good guy, Larry Broughton. So, Larry, why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Well, hello, the good Dr. Clapper.
I wish.
Inside joke, my friends. Listen, Mike, thanks for having me on
Sure.
here. Well, you are doing such a great thing for this, for the industry, that I'm glad to be joining you today. Listen, there's not a lot to add to what you just said. I'm just a guy who's kind of stumbled my way through life and tried to do the best that I can in every position that I'm in, and I make mistakes, I fall, I fumble all the time. The thing I'm really most honored and proud of, though, is I'm a dad as well, besides those professional accolades. You're a father as well. I'm sure that would be right at the top.
Yep.
And so I remember a bunch of years ago, here's a failure, a divorce. I started thinking about, okay, what can I do? I tried to get much more intentional with the legacy that I'm leaving behind. You know what I mean? Not just in my personal life, but in my professional life, right? And then tragically, about 3 years ago, my son was killed in a car accident, and then that even got more like, okay, now you've really got to focus. You got to be really intentional because our days are numbered here, right, on Earth. God knows when we're going, but then the rest of us don't know
Right.
when we're going, right? So right now, I'm just trying to serve people like you that I bump into on the journey through life. And I've realized over the years, having spent most of my professional career in the independent boutique hospitality space, that's where innovation really happens.
Gotcha.
Right? That's kind of the laboratory of brilliant ideas in the hospitality industry, because you can start small, you can test it. It's almost like doing a minimum viable product, right?
On a big scale, though, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I'm doing.
Okay. All right. So tell me about that process, like, from the beginning all the way to the end. What does that look like? If someone comes to you and says, Larry, you've owned Broughton Hotels for a long time now, so you've done numerous projects. What does that look like from ideation maybe all the way to completion?
Yeah. So let's see here. If we're talking about, it's going to be different if you're developing a brand new hotel versus going in and buying an existing one and then renovating it and converting it. One of the mantras I've had early on in my life was to start small, dream big, move fast. Let me just say that again. Start small. Okay, so what does that mean? Just start. Start with a small idea. Test it out, right? This is the minimum viable product thing.
Sure.
Dream big. Okay, what's the potential of this thing, right? So one of the things early on that now finally starting to take roots, an idea that I had was converting old mid-century motels into boutique hotels. And so I'd coined this term a bunch of years ago called motique, right? Boutique motels. In the first couple of hotels I did with my former company were motiques, right? And I've done a few since then. And the reason I thought that would be an interesting idea was because it got to a point where people were building these larger hotels and people wanted full service. And these motels, you could pick them up for a song really inexpensively, right? But what was happening is a lot of immigrants were coming in and just running them as they were, and they were getting more and more run down, right? And so for now, what you're seeing is there are thousands probably of great social media accounts of young couples that are buying motels and renovating them and turning them into cool products. You see some of these design shows where people are doing it. And so it's taken a while to kind of get some legs underneath it. But that's the idea. Started small, a 44-room hotel or motel in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And now it's taken on, it's almost turned into a movement. Right? So dream big, what could it be? And then move fast. Move as fast as you can while learning along the way. I
Sure.
think that's the general approach in most businesses, right? I see this all the time, Mike, when I have got people with big ideas, high achievers who have an idea. Oh gosh, my grandma told me that I make a mean chili, and so I'm going to empty out my bank account and I'm going to launch a chili brand. But I have no experience in the food and beverage space. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about manufacturing, and they haven't had really good guidance along the way. Yeah, that can be that you can drive your family's life right off a cliff if you do that. But if you surround yourself with people who are bolder and brighter than you are, like you're doing in this process, like I did early on in my career, like I've always done in my businesses, I try to hire people who are smarter than I am in their areas of expertise, right? Um, don't go so fast that you're throwing caution to the wind, right? You have to be a risk taker for sure. Like you're taking a risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everything you've done in your past, in your professional life, you've taken a bunch of risk, right? You take a risk when you get married. You take a risk when you decide you're going to have children. Life is about taking risk, right? But it's how do we mitigate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, start small, dream big, move fast. Now, what we do, and I think you're going to see more and more of this as what you're talking about in this accessibility space, it
Mm-hmm.
takes shape, is that we have done what's called design charrettes. So I may be the hotel owner, right? We may be doing the development or the renovation. We get all the key players into one room for a 1 day or 2 day session. And that would be the operations team. That would be the design team, the architects, the finance people. And we do what's called a charrette, where you go through everything. Okay, because your designer may want to really push the envelope on a design, but functionally it may make 0 sense.
Right.
Right? And you want the finance people there because they say, well, that's wonderful. That's very sexy, but it doesn't make any economic sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so what I love about this process, Mike, is that it's collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we sometimes forget about the power of collaborative success. We oftentimes see people who are ideas folks in the hospitality space. I can name a few of them right now. I'm not going to, who are amazing idea people. And they launch these hotels or restaurants and they're not functional. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they look very sexy. They look great on Instagram or whatever it is. But then you go and you see the reviews from the guests or the patrons who experienced it, and the seats aren't comfortable or whatever it is. We could come up with all kinds of things, right? So by doing these design charrettes, which I would encourage you when you're doing your consulting practice, is to get all the key players into one room for some period of time to talk about, hey, what's the big challenges that we're facing here? What's the goal? What's the mission here with this hotel, with this restaurant, with this hospitality project? Whether it's a cruise ship, a new theme park that's going in, right?
Sure.
We got to have everyone in one room talking about this stuff, right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense? That's kind of the process that I like to go through.
No, it definitely makes sense. And it amazes me how often things are done in a silo. When I talk to clients, they say, well, we can bring you in for 3 to 5 hours to talk to this team or that team. And to your point, I do exactly what you talk about, which is, no, we got to get the whole team together. We got to talk about everything. And I often talk about three pillars to success, which are design and include. We talked about design briefly, guest experience or hospitality that elevates,
That's
right?
right.
So once you have that design element, then you got to get the guest experience down or everything falls apart. But
Yeah,
then you got to be able to scale that with a system that scales.
for sure.
And so that's the way I look at it as well, as you have to work together as a team to make this happen, or else it just
Yeah,
kind of falls apart.
yeah, no doubt. You know, I heard 100 years ago, it might have been my grandmother or uncle who had said this: penny wise and pound foolish.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mike, let's bring you in for 3 hours.
Right.
And they try to extract all this information out of you, but if they would have spent what, 10,000, 25,000, $100,000 more and kept you on through the process, they
Mm-hmm.
would have avoided the $1 million mistakes that are made on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
of this thing, right? Now, you talked about the guest experience, the client experience,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, I'm single-handedly, I think, trying to change the languaging for business owners. I don't like the term customers. Yes, we do have customers from time to time, right? To me, customers are transactional,
Very
right?
much. Yeah.
In the hospitality space, we ought to be trying to create clients. Clients are
Mm-hmm.
relational. Clients will come back time and time again. Clients will refer you to someone else. Do many of us have customers? Yes. If I've got a convenience store on a freeway, and people
Mm-hmm.
pull off and they buy their pack of cigarettes or where did that come from? I have no idea, pack of cigarettes or their Gatorade or whatever it is, their beef jerky. We may never see them again, and they may never talk about you. But in the hospitality space, it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important that we change that mindset a little bit. Now, in these design charrettes that I'm talking about, that's one of the reasons why I bring in operations people, because in our organizations, the operations people and some of the marketing, by the way, in the design process, we also have sales and marketing people in there as well. It's the operations people who are really in touch with the guest and the team members who are working at the hotels,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I can remember when a bunch of years ago when we started removing carpets from guest rooms and putting in a variety of other hard surfaces
Right.
because they're easier to clean and less mildew and all kinds of things. There were people like, what? How are we going to do? How are we going to clean these things? Vacuum cleaners aren't going to do this. Well, guess what? They have these Swiffer things or whatever they are. We just have to adapt different ways to actually do the job. And so we need to make sure that we're touching base with our team members, employees is what some people call them. But the guest experience is really what we need to be looking at. I mentioned, not by name, but a very well-known hospitality owner out there who it's his way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
He pushes the designers to do a certain thing. And then, as I'd mentioned, these seats aren't comfortable. Yes, they're really attractive, but both the restaurants, if you go look at the reviews from guests, the seating in the guest rooms, the seating in the restaurant, it just is not comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks really cool, right? But we need to be checking in with our guest. So one of the things that we've done over the years, Mike, and it's not just my company who's done this, is we do what's called a model room,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before we come up with the entire project, before we renovate the entire hotel, we do a series of rooms, at least one room, right, where it's got the entire package included, the design, and we've got a list of all the amenities that are offered, and have people come in and spend time in that room, right? And so then you can figure out, well, the bed frame, it's got a really sharp corner. We can't have that, right? Or these pillows aren't exactly how they should be, right? And the reason I like doing this, Mike, instead of what some hotel companies do, okay, we have to check a box on the accessibility ADA checklist, right?
I was just going to bring that up.
I need the right turn radius in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just remove a chair. Let's remove a piece of furniture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you walk into a room that's technically ADA compliant, and all
Right.
it is a bed in the middle of a room.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That is it's like you're penalizing people when you've got whatever it is, 44 million people in this country alone who aren't institutionalized but fall under the ADA guidelines. That's a lot of potential clients.
100%.
Right? Why don't we spend more time welcoming them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing design services, amenities that fit them. Because we've done it before. I mean, color TVs, you know where they were launched? The hotel business, the hotel industry.
Really?
Electronic door locks. That's where they became most common. Touch tone phones. That's where they became most common, right? People saw, well, gosh, we're doing it in a hotel. I'd love to have this in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could do this on the design side as well for accessibility issues, because I think if we're making life easier and more comfortable for those folks who have an accessibility, we can probably make it easier and more comfortable for folks who don't have it. And I'm sorry that I'm rambling here for a second, but the truth is most of us are ultimately going to fall under the ADA Act. as we age,
Everyone's getting older. Yeah.
everyone's getting older.
Yep.
In fact, I think it's 44 million. You're the expert. I'm not, but it's over 44 million.
Mhm.
Most of them fall into the 75 and up,
Yep.
or at least the majority of that. Now, that's not true. Not most of them, but anyway, you're right. The older we get, the more people are going to fall into that. So why not make it more comfortable for all of us, right? So that's kind of a rant for a little bit, but I think there's an opportunity out here for hospitality experts, like you, hospitality owners, and I don't just mean hotels. I mean restaurants.
Hmm.
I mean cruise ships. I mean any place where people come and commune and have a social interaction. I think there's an opportunity here instead of just having these sterile grab bars in the bathroom and making sure that the doorway's wide enough.
Yeah, I always say that compliance is the floor, right? Not the ceiling.
That's a good
But
that's a good way to put it.
but you're spot on in the fact that even if that's the case, it can't be done in a blueprint. It can't be done, in a 3D modeling system, whatever. By bringing people in that can use these services
Yeah.
would be a huge game changer. Because a lot of times they're just trying to check the boxes. I just did it in a hotel about a month ago where they did exactly what you talked about a few minutes ago, which is they remodeled an ADA accessible room, which
Uh-huh.
means they took everything out of the room, including the space that used to hold the cabinets and the shelving for clothes, right? So what did they do? They went, oh, we don't have this anymore. We put the TV on the wall. What do we do? Oh, I know. We'll put a new closet space in next to the door. That's what
Oh,
we'll do. Well, that was the space that wheelchair users need to swing the door open to get out.
that's right.
I was
Yeah.
stuck in the room because they were trying to be functional, but to your point, nobody stepped in that room to see if it would actually
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny in a sad way how this happens because we tend to minimize and marginalize those people who aren't just like us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just human nature. I'm not like bagging on anyone in particular, but we know from our own personal experience. Well, guess what has happened since the 9/11, the global war on terror? There's been a lot more folks who are otherwise able-bodied folks who have come back and they're missing limbs, right? So now I remember when I was a kid, I can think of maybe a couple of people that I knew personally who would have today fallen under ADA. Now you can't go somewhere and you're not seeing someone in a wheelchair, an amputee, maybe burns over most of their body because of this global war on terror, because we had millions of people, who've been impacted by this. Well, since that happened, and given my veteran, status, I've been thinking about this every time we do a hotel. Like, there's going to be changes, and they are going to get more cost effective. Because I've been thinking about, well, what do you do when someone's got these exoskeletons that have been developed for people who've been paralyzed? All right, so let's say you do travel with that. How do you charge that darn thing? What do you do with that thing if you're in a hotel room? And so I've been wondering, what if we were to do adjustable desk, for instance, because, right? They make them now. They make standing desks. Why don't we put those in guest rooms? And maybe you can roll your wheelchair into it, and it automatically charges. Like you can take a phone and set it on something now, and it charges automatically. Why don't we do that with kind of battery-powered devices like exoskeletons or wheelchairs, right? Why don't we make functional furniture that kind of can shape shift, and maybe an ottoman that's next to the bed can actually help transport somebody from their wheelchair or scooter into the bed.
Yeah.
I think those things are going to become more and more economical, thereby more accessible to put into guest rooms, right? And so I think that there are a lot of folks out there, and I've tried to introduce you to some of them, who are very creative thinkers who are thinking this way. And I just want more of us talking about it, because my friends, if you're listening to this in the hospitality space, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm going to guess, Mike, you probably know, it's got to be $1 billion industry that we're missing out on for those folks who are traveling that have accessibility issues. What is the number?
Add a couple of zeros under that. It's $100 billion
$100 billion industry.
here in the U.S.
Market, I mean. It's
Yeah,
$100 billion market.
yeah,
All right, so
yeah.
let me ask you. I mean, Mike, do you mind if I ask you a couple of
Of
questions?
course, go for it. Yeah, yeah.
All right, if I'm a hotel owner, I'm a
Hmm.
restaurant owner, I'm a lounge owner, where
Hmm.
are we getting it wrong? So that folks that are listening to this, because obviously I'm going to share this with everybody I know, and most of the people I know are in the hospitality space. What
Hmm.
are we doing wrong?
Well, I think that there are certain. Let's talk about hotels first, and we can expand to
Okay.
restaurants or lounges or things like that. First of all, there are different touch points that are so key, and one that most brands or properties miss is the check-in experience, right?
I've got
when
some
I go
ideas.
to when I go to check in, 9 times, well, maybe not 9 times out of 10, a lot of the time, I'm not going to put a number to it, I get an oh crap look, right? When I go to check into a hotel,
Yeah.
because the person across the desk doesn't know how to handle my situation. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that they don't care or don't want to help. They just know this is outside the typical scope of their daily work,
Yeah.
and they're going to ask me questions that I just don't know. So to me, that's number one, is we have to equip staff to know how to answer the right questions. And to do that, they need to have the right information, which is not in place. It's so hard, even just to qualify whether a room is accessible or not, right? A lot of times I'll say, do I have my roll-in shower and a king size bed? Oh yes, Mr. Clapper, you're spot on. Yeah, we got you. I get up there and it's not what I asked for. And I come back down and they're stunned because in their system, it just says ADA accessible. And they assume that, they assume that means that everything is taken care of, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. Secondly is the room itself. But then we talked about, restaurants, lounges, even the way things are designed, just for a little bit more space can be huge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would encourage folks that are watching this, if you're not following Mike on social media, like LinkedIn, for instance, I would encourage you to do it. Hope you don't mind if I like cheer you on, Mike.
No,
But I
please.
remember you shared a video a while back about a conference that you had gone to, and it wasn't like you were picking on people or you weren't like calling people, these people are dogs for doing it this way,
No.
but just to watch that you had to go like, I'm going to exaggerate, 6 miles out of your way to get from one floor to another.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for those who don't know, Mike happens to be in a wheelchair. Just to get from point A to point B, when other people just turn the corner and they're there, right?
Right.
So instead of treating folks like second class citizens and, okay, we're going to get them up to the mezzanine level in the freight elevator, for instance,
Hmm.
with a bunch of cases of toilet paper. That's not the way it should be.
I've been there.
Yeah, I know you have. One of the ideas I've been like toying around, and this is just playing around in my brain, right? Like
Hmm.
I dated a woman a bunch of years ago, and English was her second language, and they had just started coming out with these earpieces that would do the automatic translations,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I thought that was fascinating. And so I'd always thought, like, for those hotels that have a lot of international travelers, and
Hmm.
now, by the way, they've done so many upgrades of these things. Some of these devices can let me back up. When I had it, you had to program it for the language that the other person was speaking, right?
Hmm.
Now they're so good, it can automatically detect what language they're speaking, and it's almost instantaneous how it translates it into your ear.
Sure.
So why not hotels that have a lot of international travel doing that? But then I got thinking, okay, well, what about people who have other, challenges? They've got meta glasses, right? How can we use meta glasses at the check-in and at the concierge level and these earbuds to help us deal with accessibility issues,
Hmm.
right? So maybe if someone is approaching and we know that they're ADA compliant in the glasses, it says, hey, person reads lips, make sure and look directly at them when you're speaking
Hmm.
to them. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out here, but we've got the technology right now and it's only getting cheaper and it's getting better. I think that independent boutique hotels could be the place where this starts, and it's like the laboratory. It's like the madman's laboratory of creating ideas, right? I'm going to tell you a very quick story. 100 years ago, when I was working in San Francisco, I was a partner at a company called Joie de Vivre Hotels, and we were considered, along with the Kimpton Group, one of the creators of the boutique hotel industry. In fact, an article called us the vanguard of the boutique hotel industry. And we had this guy call and say, hey, we want to come visit you and do a tour of all the hotels that you guys have, because crying out loud, you guys are getting all this press and media. That guy's name happened to have been Barry Sternlicht.
Oh, wow.
For those who don't know Barry Sternlicht, okay, from Starwood, right? And we thought, oh my gosh, what an honor. He's coming to tour our offices and tour our hotels. Well, guess what he announced about a year later? W. The W brand, okay, which was kind of the first, what we now call branded boutique hotel, right? He was trying to make this whole independent feel. And then, other brands, big brands, started copying it, right? But certainly a lot of these really innovative design, innovative services were created from organizations like Joie de Vivre, like the Kimpton Group, like Personality Hotels, who are all operators of independent hotels, like having a fishbowl in your room, with a goldfish. That started in the boutique hotel industry, right? Now a lot of people do that kind of thing. More creative design elements started in the boutique hotel industry. It didn't start in Marriott's and those types of places. So if you're a boutique hotel operator, I would encourage you to start thinking about this stuff. And because it's just, what was the number? $100 billion market? You said?
$100 billion market. But I'd like to be clear on that too, because that's just the disabled community. We're not talking about the aging population.
No, that's right.
And also, the things that I talk about when I talk to clients, or when I'm on my podcast, or the videos that you referenced on LinkedIn, these aren't things that just suit people with disabilities. I'm talking about things that can be implemented that can help everybody, right?
Absolutely.
If we design for the margins, both the physical spaces and the guest experience, everyone's included. And to your point, these aren't like super expensive fixes. They're just things that would benefit everybody. So when you're a boutique hotel, an independent property trying to compete with the big boys, I think that's a great way to, like you said, use that as a incubator to innovate new things, and not just attract guests with disabilities, although it definitely helps those travelers, but help everybody and really differentiate yourself. So the next Starwood comes in and goes, those guys are genius.
Yeah, these innovative ideas can then become your competitive advantage.
Correct.
Right? It's not just grab bars. I keep using grab bars because they're just not an attractive. They're functional, yes, but there's got to be a better way, right? But there's olfactory things, right? There's smells that we could use, right? There's tactile things like wayfinding signs, right? That could be at certain heights. Right. And so if it's somebody who's got a sight problem and they run their hand along at whatever, 38 inches or 41 inches, whatever it is, and it can say, hey, left turn 10 feet ahead kind of thing. There are all kinds of things that we can do that make everyone's life easier. Right. I mean, I can't tell you the number of resorts and conferences I've been to where the wayfinding sign is so bad that I, as an able-bodied person, relatively smart guy, get lost in these big places. We have to be able to do it better.
Yeah, and there are ways to do it that you can still maintain luxury, design, that feeling that you want. I think that's a huge misconception in the marketplace, which is if we do those things like those wayfinding signs, right? I was talking to somebody recently who decided to put an actual diagram in Braille. I don't understand how this works because I'm not blind, obviously, of the interior of a bathroom, right? So that when they walk up to the bathroom, they can feel and go, okay, so the toilet's going to be there, the sink is going to be there, so they know where they're going.
Yes.
And this wasn't like a sign that looked out of the ordinary. They just knew where it was, and it was gold plated. So, Donald Trump would love the thing because it's gold plated, right? Like, there are ways to do this so it doesn't feel like it's sticking out like a sore thumb, or you're walking into a sterile environment. You can build these things into your environment and make it really, really, luxury. So Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you can make like functional art, for instance, right? Bathrooms are one of those interesting things, but lighting, for instance, that I think that we need to get better at too,
Mhm.
is that we can do dialable, scalable LED stuff that doesn't have the flicker, right?
Mhm.
Because that's one of the problems with some of the lighting in
Yeah.
a lot of public spaces. Is it has the flicker and it can trigger epileptic seizures,
Mhm.
right? So just by thinking about these types of things, like you said, you may not understand it from a blind perspective, person's perspective, but I can't tell you the number of times, and I'm embarrassed to even admit this, but I'm going to. The design charrettes that I've been involved with, or the hotel design projects I've been involved with. I mean, been involved with over 65 hotels in my career of
Mhm.
either building, buying and rebranding, operating and rebranding on other folks' behalf, and never brought someone like you in. I've
Mhm.
hired ADA consultants, but you know what they were? They were able-bodied former architects or something who understood the ADA codes. And like you said, are we hitting the minimum? Are we hitting the floor?
Mhm.
Right. And I think that what we're talking about today is probably going to catch on sooner rather than later,
Mhm.
because now with the advances in technology, the advances in design, I think it'll be much more accepted, because here's why. In the old days, if we the standard in hotels, you need to have a Trevera bedspread. There's like, I'm talking about those polyester
I do.
bedspreads.
I do.
Right? Those were
Yes.
brand standards, right? Brand standards. You couldn't get an 80 ADA a AAA rating if you didn't have a headboard, like a
Mhm.
very specific headboard.
Mhm.
All those stuff have been thrown out since,
Mhm.
right? But it all started in the independent boutique space, really pushing the envelope
Mhm.
on standards and saying, okay, we can do this thing differently, right? And so, with the advances in technology and AI, like I was talking about, like microchips and these meta glasses and all these kind of crazy things, I think you're going to see, and some of the designers that you and I know who are very interested in this
Yeah.
stuff, I think it's going to become much more accepted.
I was just going to bring it up. You and I both know several people that you've connected me with and that I've met outside of a relationship who are now coming to me and saying, "Hey, I've had this thought about universal design or, the aging population. I'm not having to sell them on this. I thought I was going to have to go and sell folks on this. And I still am. That's why I host this podcast. That's why I do so much content creation.
Uh-huh.
But some of the foremost best designers in the world are now coming to me and folks like me and saying, I think you're onto something here, or I've been thinking about this myself. I just don't know how to do it.
Right.
Can you guide me in this process? Uh,
Yeah. As I said, this can become your competitive advantage,
Absolutely.
right? I would encourage people, be on the cutting edge of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Get your voice involved, because then you can have a more significant impact on the actual entire industry,
Yeah.
right? But again, we need to start small, right? So I would encourage folks, just reach out to Mike. and and I often, whenever we talk, I joke around. I call him, professor or doctor or something, because you're a smart guy. You've got great insight, and I think you're the guy in the industry who needs to be leading this charge. So,
Thanks, Larry. I appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I also want to give a shout out to you because you are
mm,
a heck of an advisor and
oh,
mentor. And I tell people that a few months ago, actually, it was several months ago, I was looking for my Mr. Miyagi, right? Somebody to guide the way,
yeah,
show me the way, not the shortcut or whatever, wax on, wax off, and
yeah,
learning the basics behind everything before I jump in. And Larry's been just that person. And so, Larry, I can't thank you enough for that. And then, yesterday, I think we were on a mastermind call. You've got
mm,
myself, you've got social media experts. He's a heck of a coach, so and
thanks.
mentor. So Larry, just
Well,
really quick, how can people get a hold of you as well?
yeah. Well, let
You
me
know
say this.
me, but also want to
Uh,
shine a light
no,
on you as well.
this is about you, though, Mike. I'll say this. Thank you for that. It means a lot to me. And the only reason I do think I'm a little bit gifted in this area is, God sometimes uses me. I
Hmm.
have things that come out of my mouth that I don't even know where they come from sometimes. So I just think I'm just channeling some of the stuff half the time. But honestly, it's because I have made a lot of mistakes in my life. This is
Yeah.
where wisdom comes from, right?
Hmm.
It's the combination of, experience, mistakes, self-reflection, and trying it over again, right?
Hmm.
And then sharing that, right? And I would encourage a lot of folks. I mean, I know a lot of people that started in the hospitality space about the same time I did, 35-ish years ago. And that's the great thing about the hospitality space is that we tend to, as a generality, we tend to care about people,
Hmm.
right? The the thing is, it's hard to be in the hospitality space if you're not hospitable, right? And so it means you tend to care about people. I want to encourage people who are now gray haired like me. When I got into this space, we were considered the young rebels,
Hmm.
right? Now I'm the gray haired sage or one of them, right? I encourage people. I find this part of my career, Mike, to be so much more rewarding than the earlier part of my career. Yes, it was fun. It was exciting. But to know that I'm building a legacy,
Yeah.
helping other people like you
Yeah.
kind of transform an industry is really powerful. It
Mm.
really is. So thank you for saying that. But listen, my name is Larry Broughton, and that's it. You can find me on most social media platforms, just at Larry Broughton. I did start a Substack recently, just yesterday, actually. I'm hearing a lot of people are having a lot of fun over there, and I know I'm usually an early adopter, but I'm getting there late. But it's Larry Broughton USA there. But I do a lot of, like you said, consulting and coaching and mentoring and
Mm.
keynote speeches and that kind of thing. But my website is larrybroughton.com.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Last
Yeah.
thing I got to ask you about,
Yeah.
you and I've been friends for a long time. I've never asked you about the Duke behind you.
Oh, I don't know if people can see that on our screen split here. So I've got a buddy of mine who's an artist who created that and another version of that. Those are made out of license plates.
Oh, I see
I
that
love
now.
John Wayne. What's that?
I see that. I've looked at that picture a dozen times on our calls and
Yeah,
conversations. I never noticed the license plates
they're
before.
license plates. Yeah, and I've got another version of that where when he was in the movie The Green Berets.
Mm-hmm.
And so Drew Shade is his name, Drew, Shade, Shade, and he does all kinds of artwork with license plates. And so I'd encourage folks to go look him up. But I swapped that out. That's from True Grit. And then I'm looking out in the hallway because the other one's hanging out in the hallway, and I tend to rotate them. But it's from him in the Green Berets. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
John Wayne's the man. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and for those who ever come to John Wayne Airport here in Orange County, there's a beautiful statue of him with the American flag hanging in the background. And yeah, he's he's a stud.
Good. Good. Anything else you want to leave our listeners and our watchers with before we hop off here?
Yeah, this is kind of a old standby for me when we do this, and it's because I just have had so many mistakes and failures in my life because I was chasing the wrong thing for many years, and so I want to help other people avoid that, and that is success. I would encourage people to stop chasing success. Yes, success is important for sure, Mike. It's success that puts money in our bank accounts and keeps clothes on our backs. Sometimes you got to be succeeding somehow. But I think where the real reward comes is when we seek a life of significance,
Mm-hmm.
right? We play a significant life in the, or a significant role in the lives of our family members, in our communities, in our place of work, in our place of worship. When we play a significant role there, then success is the byproduct of it. And so I just encourage people, go out and do something significant today.
Yeah, I saw one of your videos the other day. It hit me between the eyes. You were talking about courageous integrity,
Yeah.
and that is so important in our day and age, and as men. So
Yeah.
you are a multifaceted, multi-layered, you know,
Yeah.
hotelier, best-selling author, leadership coach, guru, and it's just a pleasure to know you, man, and call you my friend. So.
Likewise. Likewise.
Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to contact me, it's very easy. It's Mike at able2global.com. That's Mike at able, the number 2, global.com. I would love to talk to you about what Larry and I talked about today, or work with you on your project. Together, we can transform accessibility or hospitality. Actually, let's not even talk accessibility right now. Let's talk about hospitality. We can transform it together. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you on the next episode.
God bless.